So when Joel becomes Prime Minister, he's going to fix the airport ownership issues, and he's going to fix infrastructure growth. Train from the Shire?
No, the light rail, bro. The light rail. I've told everyone my light rail plan.
Okay.
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, sorry,
I do.
you've heard it.
I have enough train chat in all. One of my group chats is named after trains because of the amount of whinging we get. Oh, trains are down again. At Tim Ponder.
Light rail from Cronulla station.
Yep.
Close the mall to all traffic, but light rail can go down it. Turns right and goes down in front of it, does all the beaches, goes all the way out to Kernel, tunnel under La Perouse, and joins up with the other eastern side of the line. The future is now. Welcome back to the Chip Lunch podcast. It's exciting to have you along with us. Braden, you and I are very colour matching today.
Yeah.
Is it your beanie?
Yeah, I was about to say, where's your green beanie?
I don't like wearing beanies a lot of the time. I like that they make you warm, but my hair feels funny after a while.
Yeah, I don't have that problem.
I know. We're going to welcome back the Big Cooner, the Power Broker.
Power Broker.
I think we called you something like that. Welcome back, Craig Pring. Yes. How are you?
I'm very well, and just a humble servant. That's all. That's all.
You are a humble servant coming on the podcast again, because sometimes we like to get people back, Braden, that have, we kind of. Lewis is a recent example. Hudson is another recent example. To kind of see how they're progressing in their life and growing in the Lord.
Wow.
And so we thought we might do that with Craig, because it's been, I think, has it been about 12 months since we had you on last?
It feels like it. Yeah, about a year. I mean,
it feels like it.
It feels like a very short year. I don't know.
No.
But, yeah.
Do you feel like the years get shorter and shorter? That's how I feel.
Absolutely.
As you get older.
Absolutely, yeah. As a 30-something that I think I am.
You look it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you're right, because I don't know if it's like because you've been alive longer, like the years are compacting kind of thing. Because you used to feel like when you're in high school or something, like this year is going forever. Will it ever end? But now I'm like, it's June already. Where has the year gone? Like, I don't know if that's true. I know that happens to everyone, but yeah.
You're old.
Confirmed.
I just need to say it at least once a podcast.
Yeah, you do. The box is ticked.
Well done.
Well done. We can move on.
Done early.
We can move on. Craig, the first question we always ask is, how do you like your chips? Now, I think if I remember correctly, you like McDonald's chips.
I think that's what it was, yeah.
Yes. Did you partake in some of those on Wednesday night after the council meeting?
Quite possibly. It has become a bit of a habit now. And
welcome to Soul Revival.
I should blame our senior pastor for that. But,
to be honest, we were going, he's only picked back up in the last little bit in terms of joining us back at the Golden Arches after every council meeting. He was a sometimes partaker.
The thing is, like, I think I did one. I came to McDonald's with you guys after one, and I don't think I went to bed until 12:30. And
That's pretty good. I thought you were going to say later than that.
Well, when you wake up at 6, it doesn't really work very well. So yes, you've got to be careful.
No, I don't have any little people demanding anything of me in the morning.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just ministry.
Yeah. Oh yes, that, and I don't know. I feel like the dog would be pretty stoked if I didn't get up.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It just likes to keep.
Yeah, she's
just
normally
likes
pretty chill.
Oh wow,
she's good.
Very good.
Oh yes, life gets in the way of that.
But your wife's an early riser, isn't she?
Yes.
But you're like, get out of the bed.
No, she's normally like well left to work by the time I get up.
There you go. Ships in the night.
Yes.
So Craig, sorry, has your preference changed?
Oh, look, I still love a Macca's chip, but, roasted potatoes, I can do it all. I genuinely can do any sort of, starchy, potatoey type fried good, especially salted up. So I won't say that's changed in 12 months. I think, still very much a big fan. But, again, being very clear, it's plain salt. It's none of this other stuff on top. So
this UK claptrap.
Wow.
This from where did it originate? Adelaide.
Yes.
chicken salt.
So that is a bit suspicious. I'll give you that.
Yeah, anything comes out of Adelaide for sure. We'll keep an eye on that. Would you agree, Craig?
Well, Adelaide's produced quite some interesting things, I would suggest, and
yes.
some of them are very good, of course. I'm sure.
Shout out Breeley's.
Okay.
Well, they were both from Adelaide.
Yeah, I know they're both from Adelaide. I've done their Pute Lunch podcast.
Yeah, crazy.
What would you say is good that's come out of Adelaide?
Oh, the Balfour's frog cake. If you've not known what the Balfour's frog cake is, you'll need to go to Adelaide for it. But it's a little cake.
Yeah.
I think we'd call them a butterfly cake. They cut the top out of it, make it look like a frog's mouth, cover it in green icing, bit of cream, and that's the Balfour's frog cake.
So no actual frog in it.
No frog in it. No.
Why does it have such a long name?
Well,
who's Balfour?
That's the name of the pie company in Adelaide. So at Adelaide, you'll find they're all different companies to what we've got everywhere else in Australia.
Okay.
So iced coffee up here, it's Oak iced coffee or it's something like that. Down there, it's Farmers Union iced coffee, and they drink it more than Coca-Cola down in Adelaide.
Yeah, I've seen that. The chocolate milk industry.
Yeah.
In Adelaide is bigger than the soft drink industry.
Oh, really?
Pretty wild.
I haven't had a chocolate milk in a very long time.
The only one missing out is you.
And they're my business. They're missing out with my hard-earned cash. Yeah.
I don't know. You need to hang out with Rob more.
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh, because he drinks chocolate milk?
Yeah, he'll just bring you into his orbit. Hudson's nodding.
Yeah. Only chocolate?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah. He's not much of a strawberry milk.
I used to do vanilla and chocolate. And it could only be oak.
Yeah.
Nothing else was
Loyalist.
good.
Not Farmers Union?
Well, admittedly, I haven't tried Farmers Union.
Yeah.
But I don't really drink milk anymore.
Well, hope you don't have a fall then.
Slip back in my old ways.
Yeah.
Craig, we have you, like you said, it's been 12 months, approximately.
Mm.
We'll have to look back and see what the actual date was. But it was recorded in the main, what would we call that in MCC? The main auditorium?
Yeah, the main church building.
Yeah, it's the same
hall,
like when at Kirrawee, we're like, what do we call these two different rooms? We never really...
Yeah, we've never
Some will
really
say auditorium. I'm like, it's not a concert hall. Like,
yeah.
I think over my life here, it's sort of moved from being the sanctuary and something that was, closed off, no kids allowed in there. We need to keep this nice. To now something that I think is used by everyone. Everyone's welcome in there. So I think it's sort of changed a little bit to what it is.
Okay.
Sanctuary sounds a bit like Superman. Like, what's the Superman thing?
I don't know. I don't like comic books.
Okay, thank you for that.
But there'd be a lot of relics in there, like there was the big communion table with big chairs and a pulpit and an organ.
We found
things
those
like
big
that.
chairs a while ago, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. The elders chair? No, what were they called?
Yeah, or the deacons chairs.
chair.
Yeah,
They're very large, but they seem very uncomfortable.
Mm. And as a kid, people would sit on them and do communion and things like that. So it was done in a very formal way. So, high congregationalism, I guess you'd call.
So I suppose that's one of the questions we had for you today was, let's go personal first. And how has God changed you, do you think, in the last year since we've had the last chat that we did on the podcast?
Yeah, I think in the year that's gone past, I'd say there's not huge levels of growth, nor hopefully a lot of decline.
Going back to your chocolate milk ways.
Yeah, that's all right. I haven't gone back to the chocolate milk. So certainly personally, there's been a lot of time spent travelling for work, which has been a little bit of a challenge to try and balance the family life and sort of other avenues of life. So that's sort of what seems to have ramped up in the last 12 months.
That's it.
So yeah, that's probably where those things are at.
Are you clocking up your air miles? Are you keeping track?
Embarrassingly, yes.
That's not embarrassing.
Well, look, the only good thing that sort of came out of it is that we managed to get some of those to be reinvested into me getting the family across to the UK for a holiday over Easter. So we did miss out on sort of the Easter activities down here, but it was good time to travel with a family and learn what. Learn how a family can act as we're stuck in the same room for, 5, 10, 15 days in a row, which has been good fun. The other learning was, and I mean, talking to everyone out there, Do you know that you can fly economy all the way from Australia to the UK? I didn't know you could do such a thing. I didn't know there was such a thing that could be done. I thought there was just a curtain there and you know, the meals were prepared behind that curtain. I didn't realise that.
There's a large kitchen in the back.
Yeah, a large kitchen for the business class passengers. But no, there's a whole group of economy travellers down there.
And so that's where the kids were, naturally?
Well, that's where I was. I got down there and you can do it. So
did you do the Perth to London flight?
No, we just did. We did British Airways via Singapore. So it was
I won't bore everyone with talking about flying routes, but I thought that would interesting that you can fly from Perth all the way to London now.
Yeah,
that's wild. Right. So sorry. Back to anything else that God's been doing in your life personally. Like it's been a challenge. You're saying trying to balance the travel and family.
Yeah, trying to balance those things, I think, has probably been the challenge and possibly the learning for me this year is how to do that better. So hopefully, if I have the opportunity to talk about it in another 12 months, hopefully some of those things have improved.
What would you say has worked so far, though?
What has worked? I think just trying to remain grounded, and I try and protect sort of the weekends to some extent. So if I need to go away for work, I'll try and fly Monday morning or Sunday night or something like that to enable that I get the maximum sort of time with, you know, family, church across the sort of the weekends. As I say, doesn't always happen that way, but if we can do those things, that sort of tends to help. I guess keep that balance and just again the thing that I love is people reach out while I'm away, and I love people just sending a text and stuff like that, which is really cool. So
And why do you think, if you can tell us, why has the travel ramped up so much?
It's the type of role that I'm doing now. So we sort of moved from being a more regional based business to a global based business. So if anyone's in organisational design, that's probably not the way to go. I think there's a lot of value in localization and, you know, regional operations, but of course in a globalized culture, we all tend to go towards the big is best model, whereas I guess I'm finding just the way we're doing things at the moment, working across multiple time zones and distances, it's probably not as efficient as what it would be if we were all in the same room together all the time.
Have you got any how to deal with jet lag tips?
No. Well, when I say no, the things I do is to basically just try and get tired and sleep when you're tired. And then there's a little tip that the Americans taught me this time is called melatonin. Apparently that's something that's in your body. It's pretty natural. A couple of those pills seem to get me to sleep pretty well. Doesn't keep me asleep though. That's the only problem.
Oh, really? So, because what your body thinks it's time to wake up.
Yep, time to wake up. So, but it seems to get me to sleep. So,
okay, wow. Does the we probably talked about this in your last episode, but do you is there part of you that likes to travel?
I think inherently, yes, I don't mind travelling, so I don't mind going on a plane. I don't mind those things. The hard bit is being away for a chunk of time.
Yeah.
So if I could do it in 2 days, that'd be cool. Go on a plane, go and do those things for a couple of days. No
Wait
problem.
for Elon to
that's it.
Kind of
faster.
Can't wait for that.
3 hours Adelaide to London. There you go. Yeah,
oh.
that's been talked about, but
is it?
It's still a long
Make
way
sure
away,
you get a Balfour's frog cake.
I will have to.
On the way. Make sure they serve that out of the back of the.
They may do. They may prepare it down the back of the plane and bring it up to us.
All right. What's your favourite airline? That's my last question about travel.
Favourite airline? Look, the Middle East carriers at the moment are doing very well. So that's your Emirates and your Qatar Airways. Let's not look at the ethics of potentially those airlines. Disclaimer: I don't work for any of them, but I think certainly their service levels are very good.
Is Etihad there too?
I haven't flown Etihad, but okay. I'm sure they're very good as well. Mm-hmm. And then when we talk about our home carriers and our legacy carriers, look, they've got a bit of work to do, but we pay
There's a fair bit of legacy.
Yeah, we pay our staff full rates as well. So, that's always going to be an extra cost on our business, and we've got to pull the oil out of the ground in other countries, not necessarily our own. So,
and it's not owned by the government.
And it's not owned by the government. So, a few challenges that our airline
against the competitors. Yeah, totally. All right. So, my question is that when you're traveling and stuff, like your routine is probably bit all over the place. Like it's kind of a routine. You fly, get in a hotel, blah, blah, blah. But the travel's like a different amount of time to get there, or you're staying in a hotel for a different amount of time, or like you've got a meeting here, meeting there. How do you go with your like trying to stick to at least somewhat routine of Bible reading and stuff like that? How do you go with that?
Yeah, I mean the good thing. I'm using YouVersion at the moment. That's probably the best way, and I think I'll blame Joey for the reading plan for 1 Kings, which has been useful to try and stick to.
It has, yeah.
And I guess what it does, the only thing I can't do with YouVersion is where I lose a day flying back from the US, it resets me because it misses that day completely.
No. Oh, really?
So
That
the
would
streak. Always.
You lose the streak.
I lose the streak.
That would kill me.
I know. So it's. So trying to do that. Now it doesn't happen at the same time every day, so that's the biggest challenge. I do like routine. I do like sort of being able to sort of set a time aside, and that is difficult. And again, in my role, even when I'm at home, is challenging because some days I start early, some nights I finish later. So really, it is just making sure that I'm, just finding the time during the day to do that.
I suppose when you're on flights, I'm guessing, is that a good time to do it? Because you kind of get like not bothered by anyone a lot of the time.
That's it. So again, carving out time on there to do that is something that I can do. I'm probably not a very good reader, so I can't sit there with a book and read. I don't have a tablet to sit there and read with. So typically it's being done on a laptop screen, or as I say, reading's being done on the phone. So. As I say, I can do that anywhere, anytime, and it's just having the discipline to go, okay, well, I'm on a train, I'm on a plane, I'm in an airport terminal, I've got a few minutes, let's do that now. So that's how I try and do that.
Because I find like maybe the struggle, I try to read my Bible every morning, and the reading plan's been really helpful for 1 and 2 Kings at the moment. But like you're saying, like I would find it hard to have that routine moving all the time and the time changing and things like that. So I can understand that. What are your thoughts on 1 and 2 Kings lately? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that, because I've been really enjoying it actually.
Yeah, it's probably not one that I've delved into in my life.
Same.
So it's been really cool. They're a bunch of grubs, aren't they? They really are. We love David. We think he's awesome, and so that was really good to. We know his story. We talk about his story quite a lot, so we knew he was, had his good times and his bad times, and that's okay. But again, getting into the depths of some of the other guys and just going, oh, okay, we need Jesus.
Yeah,
it was like when we did Samuel as well, wasn't it? It was like some people were quite low after what I thought with Samuel, but I don't know. I feel like I might be wrong, but I feel like with 1 and 2 Kings, it could be just the way we're doing the studies and even doing the reading plan. I think you get a greater appreciation, or gain a greater appreciation of like how God, like there's this through plan that God has, like it runs through everything, and I think I'm glad that's why we. Similar to you were saying, Craig, that I haven't studied the Old Testament very much. And when we're able to do that together and see that God has a plan and is working it according to his purposes, regardless of what sinful people, like you're talking about, the grubs, including us, do, I think that's quite, it's encouraging, but also there is a element of, stability. And so there's always something to fall back on, even if you are the one that's causing the problems. I don't know if you agree with that.
Oh, absolutely. That's the bit I guess we're seeing. And again, as someone that's grown up in church and grown up, reading the Bible and listening to sermons and things like that all my life, we do tend to only want to look at the good stuff. We only want to look at what Jesus did and everything. And it's like, again, I've probably had an attitude for a lot of my life, well, what do we need the Old Testament for? Jesus saved us from that, so we don't need that. But going back and seeing the context of why do we need Jesus? Why is that the case? As I say, that's probably been the bit that's been really useful for me to dig into. And as I say, sometimes some of the passages are hard going, like really hard going. And why do I need to know all of that? But I think that's been just useful for me, getting to know a little bit of context behind it, and then where hopefully where we're going to get to.
That's right. Well, I think as you're saying, as you delve into it more and more, you realize how more and more it points to Jesus. And just all these like things that are woven through the story, you're like, oh, that's meant for Jesus. Because there's like a pattern of something happening, and you go, but the ultimate fulfillment of that is Jesus. And I think that's what it gives you a great appreciation for what you're saying, that Jesus has dealt with all that. Yeah. We're this side of the cross. And so we can read it with a sense of a joy as well, even though it's really hard going sometimes, reading what, for example, Ahab was doing. All right, the God office happened, and God is the one and true God, but I'm going back to the Baals. It's just like, come on, man. So frustrating. Anything else you want to add, Braden?
Oh, 1, 2 Kings? I think I echo both your thoughts. I think when we got through with Samuel, it's hard going, but it is worth it. And I think you're like, oh, Solomon's the high point, and then you realize it's like 1 page of he's doing great. Oh, damn, we had a good run, didn't we? I guess, but I've been really enjoying it. I've been really enjoying it in Bible study. I think 1 and 2 Kings kind of move pretty quickly through stuff as well, which is
that's true.
It's fun to have different things going on. And I think, the preaching's been awesome. Yeah. It's been really good. Really creative.
Where like Elijah whacks the Jordan River with his cloak.
Yeah.
What an interesting way to do it. But then we talked about on Monday about how what are the other times that God has moved the water? And obviously there's Moses in Exodus, but also Joshua. It happens in Joshua as well. Yeah. And then we're like, oh yeah. And then, there's these patterns of things that God has planned and that you can't comprehend because it's so wide-ranging, so broad. But He is. And then it gives you an appreciation for His, what's the right word? The all-knowingness, what is it, omniscience? There's omniscience, and what's the other one? Omnipresence. Yeah. Again, so you can't even say the word. Yeah. And it's like, because that doesn't even really describe Him. So, yeah, that's cool. All right, so the other reason we thought we'd have you on, Craig, though, is to kind of gain your perspective on the progress between the partnership between Soul Revival and MCC. We heard, obviously, on your last podcast about how kind of the decision came to that and why the members of MCC thought it was a good move to make. How do you think we've gone in the last approximately 12 months? What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking so many different things is what it is. But again, praise God for His providence over, I guess, His church. He's going to build it. And I think, the reason we said last year why the Miranda members thought it would be a good idea to get into partnership with Soul Revival is we needed some help. And I think that the help that we've seen in the last 12 months, again, has just continued to build on sort of the period up to that. And again, now it feels like one family. That's what I see. There's a lot more cross. I'll call it cross-pollination, but a lot of working between the sort of multiple campuses now. Integration, yes. So that's been really great to see. We're seeing a lot more people. People on Friday nights and Saturdays sort of crossing over.
Yeah, I've seen that on Saturday night. Yeah, it's been cool.
So that's been really good. Certainly, we're using the Miranda facility a lot more to sort of get people down here for meetings and things like that as well. So that's been quite quite useful to do, I hope. That's a bit further for people to drive like me from Janelli, but that's okay. We'll come down here. I'd much prefer to be up at Kirrawee. It's much closer to home. Those things have been really useful in that. One thing has just been the ministry here. If we think about sort of what we started with, we were keeping the Sunday morning service going. The youth on the Friday nights had been the two main things, and then there were a number of Miranda ministries going on around the outside with some of the women's activities and things like that. So I just sort of break them down. I think Sunday mornings, we've kept that going, and I guess it's now solidified. There's now a rhythm and a rigour to how that is. It's quite deliberate. I think we just started breakfast last year when we had first spoken, and the breakfasts now are embedded in what we do here. So there's sort of a fixed crew of probably 25 plus people that come for breakfast on a Sunday morning, and that's part of their routine. Not everyone comes for that. That's okay. But there is some rhythm about how that's happening now, and really nice time of getting together and fellowshipping around the table and doing that around food. I'd like to do that more, but Braden makes me play musical instruments very often. So
I am yet to have breakfast.
You haven't had breakfast either, yeah. So,
but I'm sure it's great.
Yeah.
We chatted on the 12th of April, 2020.
12th of April.
Yeah.
Last
There
year.
you go.
That's what I was.
12th of April last year.
Yes.
Wow.
See, time flies.
Time
Time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies when you're flying with Craig. Flying with Craig. That's the time.
So yeah, we would have only really just been starting the breakfast stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And you think that's part of the community now doing that? I feel like that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So again, for a lot of people, that's now part of doing church. So again, flows into the service. I think the service now very much has its liturgy, the way that it works. That sounds a really old-fashioned word, but it's just the way we do stuff, right? So the way we do stuff in the service now, I think people are really bought into that and invested in that.
Yeah.
So that's been good.
I've gained a greater appreciation for that too, like whether it's creeds or liturgy and stuff like that, about how it's really important to keep reiterating that. I think when I was younger, I was like, oh, saying this again. But as we get older, I'm like, yeah, this is really important. And I think it adds to that, you call it rhythm. I think it actually really, because we base it on the prayer book, the elements in that service, and we've been talking about this in the arts podcast on Shock Zorba as well, of just how it's kind of like like a safety in it, like knowing that this is the not the program, but this is like what we do together during our formal time of gathering together. And then we've got the elements like breakfast or dinner at Saturday night, for example, that are kind of add-ons to that. But this is the key thing. And that, I think that's really cool because it allows us to do, for example, what we've done at Yarrawarra, where it's outside. We still have all those elements. We just don't have music at the moment for various reasons. But yeah, that great appreciation. What's the guy that wrote Rise and Triumph? Carl Trueman book that he wrote on creeds. We read that. We were meant to read it for Week Away last year, and I didn't get it done because we were going to do a book club. But a similar thing, I got it out of that. Like that's added to my understanding and greater appreciation for it. So that's just adding on what you're saying though. Anything else that you've seen? I was going to ask you a question. What do you think has surprised you in terms of, because it's a lot of change, and you've worked in a lot of organisations where change can be hard, and I mean some people are just going to be resistant to change because there's something that they really care about here at MCC, for example, and we're coming in with lots of new ideas, and that can take a long time. I was going to ask you, what has surprised you that's not taken as long as you thought it might?
Yeah, I'm not sure what hasn't taken as long, but certainly I look at the approach that's been taken is highly relational. So it's not coming in with a rule book, and again using that word liturgy again. It's not about liturgy and hitting you with a rule book and saying this is what you must do. It's totally relational. So it's coming in and it's having a conversation about it and talking about what's working and what's not working, and then how do we pivot? How do we change? How do we sort of embed some of these habits. So that's what I guess has been easier. So I think Miranda would have always seen itself as quite a family church, a loving and possibly even an insular church looking in it itself. So when you were in Miranda, you felt loved. So that's what I think the history of it was. I think what the partnership with Soul Revival and the relationship there has been is that we're still loved, but we can also love everyone else outside. And so I think that's been a really useful learning, certainly for me, and I'll just talk for myself. But
that's why you're on the podcast.
Yeah, that's it. But we can, by loving those outside, more and more people will want to come in to get to know why we love each other and why we love Jesus. So I think that's the thing that I think has worked well in the last 12 months is people have been happier to sort of open the doors and open their lives and open those relationships. So because I think that was quite difficult to start with. I think I've heard Greaves and I have talked about some of the things around sort of youth and some of the challenges that sort of happened there to start with. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but the backs to the wall as sort of we brought new people together. And I think that's what those walls are starting to break down. And certainly if I just talk about sort of the mornings, I'm not as close to youth as the others are, but certainly on the Sunday mornings, the walls are coming down. People are sharing meals around tables together. They're sitting next to each other. They're serving up the front together. Awesome. So they're the things that are working well.
Yeah. Something I've greatly appreciated, even if it's, again, I think we say long-term low-key, and I think the lesson for me over the last year has been actually embracing that and being it takes time to build what we do. And I think I used to finish a service on a Sunday, and I knew if I wanted to talk to a teenager, I'd either have to catch them in 10 minutes before they went to Miranda, or I'd have to go and find them. They'd be downstairs. They're always downstairs, or they were somewhere else. And whereas now I've been appreciating over the last couple of months is I can finish the service and I can see where they are. We're not separate. I don't have to go and find them or whatever. So that's been really lovely from a youth perspective. Yeah. And I think, Greaves, Alana, Rob, Riley have done an awesome job. Rob's been coming a lot on a Sundays. Hudson's been coming a lot on a Sunday, which has been really lovely to have those crew investing in Miranda, not just on a Friday, but on a Sunday as well, which has been really, really cool. And kicking absolute goals on Friday as well. But yeah, it's been really cool to see that, and them grabbing the younger crew as well and having breakfast and hanging out with people and doing that. It's been really, I don't know. I think, I had that reflection with Greaves a couple of weeks ago where I was like, I finished the service now and I don't have to go searching to chat to them, which is really cool. And I think, it's just being more comfortable with each other and hanging out and having more experiences together. And Jared and Zane have played on a Saturday night in the band as well, which has been really fun. Just, again, when we have teenagers on and hanging out and doing stuff together, doing ministry together, is something that's really, really fun to get to do together as well.
Can I dig into that, your comment about being a little bit insular or at least inward looking? What do you think is is it a cultural thing just in terms of the church, or I'm just fascinated to hear what your thoughts are around that, and not in a disparaging way. It's just interested, but I'm just really interested in that comment you made, and I want to hear more about it.
Yeah, and I guess it's something that I can see to some extent in Soul Revival as well, and I probably see it in a lot of churches. I'm not involved in a lot of churches, but I guess when you're in a church, you're in, right? You know stuff. When you're going to a new church for the first time, it's really difficult, and so I think Miranda. And again, I'm talking about sort of probably in the past, but you'd get a warm welcome at the door, and you'd possibly not get that same warm welcome when you sat next to someone in church. And I guess then at the end of the service, as Braden was sort of alluding to, you'd look around for someone to talk to, and possibly people would move to their own groups and things like that. So that's the bit that I'm saying was quite insular. So it was hard for new people to come in. And just those pathways from working from our ministries into sort of what I'd say the inner core would be, they weren't established.
Yeah.
Whereas I think now, as I say, the inner core is everywhere now, it feels like. You can easily walk in and have breakfast with someone. You can easily sort of walk in and go and have a chat to someone that you haven't done before. Now, okay, we can keep working on some of those pathways into some of the deeper ministries and, better coordination of, Bible studies and things like that. I'm sure we can do that a lot better. But I think there's some clear and deliberate steps in being able to do those things.
Yeah.
Sorry, go.
I think it's a thing that I think is relevant to all churches, is that constant reminder of like being aware for the person who, when you step into a new space, it feels like everyone else knows what's going on and you don't. Yeah. And like, it's so hard to forget. It's so easy, to forget that feeling when you're as comfortable. And especially if you've grown up here or something, maybe you've never had that feeling in this building. But I think that's a constant challenge that all churches are dealing with, is as you bring people in and they become more comfortable, is trying to keep that eye open and that heart open to, it's really, can be really uncomfortable if someone steps into a space and goes, everyone else seems like they know what they're doing and I'm the only one that doesn't. Generally on a Saturday night, we'll see that with the dinner line. Like the easiest point to unplug on a Saturday night is service has ended, everyone's lining up for dinner. If you're someone that's not as confident or comfortable in the space, that's the easiest point to go, we'll just head out. And that's something that we talk about a lot on Saturday and have been successful at, not as successful at, like keep having to remind ourselves and figure out how to love people and during that period. And I think that's a similar thing with lots of churches, is just trying to figure out where those connector points are, how to make people more comfortable, how to keep your eyes open to people who are new, who are less comfortable, or even maybe people who don't feel new anymore because they've been along a couple of times and now the welcoming sheen has kind of worn off a little bit, but keeping consistent with those things as well. I think that's a constant reminder for all, like lots of churches, is that's a tricky process, and that's why we have a welcoming team, that's why we have a life support team, that's why... But it's something that needs to be more consistent for everyone, because once you are comfortable, it's easy to forget how uncomfortable it can be.
Yeah, the two things that you've said has made me think about something that we were talking on Shock Absorber last week, which was, and that was in regards to intergenerational ministry. It was a lot of churches, because yes, we are, like Jesus says, we're a family. Right, and we definitely are a part of God's church. As a result, we just think that, in that case, intergenerational ministry, or whether it's welcoming or meeting other people, etc., will just happen. And I think that if we just leave it to, without kind of any intentionality, people are going to revert back to what's more comfortable for them and easy for them, which is not to talk to the new person or not even try and follow up with someone or those kind of things, because it's hard. But I think what I learned from Stu last week was that, if we're intentional about it, and this is why strategy, we talk about theology, strategy, practice, why strategy is the most important thing. It's not the most important thing. It's the most important thing to how you're doing your ministry. Therefore, it allows you to do those things that you've both talked about, I think, or allows you to do it more so than not. And it does seem to be the missing piece, like you're saying, Braden, with churches, is that we just expect, our theology is like, a lot of us are pretty aligned on theology. Like there might be a few bits and pieces here and there, but we all know that Jesus died on the cross to save us. And as a result, we are transformed by that. But then we sometimes just leave it at that. And then, so we think, it'll just happen, but it doesn't. And I'm wondering, Craig, do you think that may have contributed to that kind of inward looking a little bit, for a lack of, for example, a strategy? where you all agree on the theology basically, but the lack of strategy doesn't help you to look more outwardly. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. And probably 12 months ago, I mentioned that we'd had sort of an independent review done at Miranda. And I think that was one of those things. You didn't have a plan, you didn't have a strategy. Or if you did, you didn't know what it was and you didn't know how to follow it.
Yeah.
So I think having a deliberate plan. And I must admit that they're hard to implement as well. So I think... So something that I've seen sort of Stu and the rest of the team doing is being able to reiterate that. So go back to just Sunday services, but we reiterate that each week through the rhythm and rigour of what we do. I think Stu does present at each church meeting again, theology, strategy, practice. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. This is how I'd like to see it set up. So I think by saying those things all the time, and again, we've got the main goal in place. We want to see people brought to Jesus. We want to make disciples. That's it. Yeah. It's the how, and so I think Soul Revival's strategy of the how is the bit that's sort of been useful for me, and hopefully that's been useful for others at Miranda to go, okay, well, this is the how. This is how we're going to go about it. As I say, we're nowhere near where it needs to be. There's so many more things that we can be doing better. I think certainly Stu's been talking about the service team structure that Soul Revival has. Right. We'd like to get that local council in place down at Miranda as well, so that we can get a lot better structured, a lot better organised at things. I think some of those areas are in play, but there's some other areas at the moment that either act independently or just need a little bit more help. So
because I'm glad you brought that up, because one of my other questions was going to be, I asked you, what do you think has happened surprisingly quickly for you? And then my question was like, what do you think has taken a bit longer than you expected it today? Is that one of the things in terms of implementing service teams, for example? That's
one of the things, yeah. So I think we've continued to do stuff, let's say, or we continue to do activities and events. That's probably been part of Miranda's DNA. We get up for the big events. Christmas carols, Easter services, and even some of the ministries that we do during the week. There's a craft group. We get up for that. We get up for the woman to woman event once a month. Right. So that's our DNA. Whereas I think if I look back at sort of Soul Revival, they're typically all of church activities. We're doing life together all of the time. So if we can slightly adjust, woman to woman is not just this group that happens over here. It's an all of church activity, and we're all invested in this. Okay. As I say, it's going to take a while to work out what that looks like. But and I don't have all the answers, by the way. But it's just one of those things that I think, Friday nights also. It's part of the DNA of Soul Revival. At the moment, I think at Miranda, it still is a group of people that get together on a Friday night. How do we build that into the entire DNA of the church that, everyone wants to get involved and invested on Friday nights? We're getting different people up here cooking meals, helping serve, cleaning up afterwards, those types of things. But it's very much still a youth team doing that work, not a whole of church activity. Does that help explain where I think?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like you're hearing this kind of, you feel like there's ministries that may be a bit isolated, and as a result they might feel a bit unsupported as a result, because they are trying to do work for the gospel, but because it's a little bit disparate, it's trying to bring that all together.
Correct. Yeah. So as I say, if I'm more deliberate about the woman to woman language, I think it's been an awesome ministry in the past. It serves a group of people that can get together on a Tuesday morning once a month. It's almost a church service, right? So we get together, read the Bible together, sing some songs, have a word spoken. Now, how do we make that all of church? How do we make that an activity that we're all invested in rather than sort of a small group or a small committee, because I think all of that then, again, everyone would be invested in that. We'll be looking for different ways to bring people to that group.
Yep.
Because I think it does sort of suit a certain number of people. I mean, just by its name, it probably suits half the population, possibly not the other half, and that's okay. But how do we invest everyone in that ministry? And same thing with the other ones. I'll go the other half of the population. Something that we've called Fellowship Garage or the men's shed downstairs. A crew started that up this year. It's sort of, there's been a garage downstairs for a number of years that's been started to be set up to be able to get blokes together to do stuff, and again, if we build that into the DNA of the church, into the way we do stuff together, it'll be so much better than sort of just a small group getting together to make stuff. But if we make it a deliberate effort that it's part of what we do as a community here, I think that will reach more people.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's something I've been thinking about a lot. I get heavily influenced by things that get brought to me while we're doing a shock absorber podcast. And I suppose there's one more question about kind of just how MCC is growing and adapting to this new partnership that we've had for over a year now, is the shock absorber idea, which is to let the younger people know what's changing in culture. The older people can bring biblical wisdom to it. And Stu started calling it a top-down and bottom-up approach. I'd be interested to hear your feelings on that, growing up in a different style of church. That there's some people who say they're not really listened to at church until they're 40, for example. Is that something that influenced you as you're growing up, or you maybe perhaps have been made aware of it now, like you probably weren't aware of it as you were growing up?
Yeah, I think certainly the intergenerational piece is something that we can work a bit harder on.
And but you haven't had that strategy, so that's why it's difficult to do that.
Yeah, and we probably haven't had the strategy in place, but I think in years gone past, there was probably a greater spread of ages, in leadership and it sitting across the ministries. And I think we're slowly moving back to that. But if I look at the slightly colouring hair sitting around sort of the leadership tables and things like that, I think we've got to get some younger voices in that whilst maintaining sort of some of the wiser heads in that. So certainly that's what I'm indicating when we're talking about running, service teams and running ministry. You want to see every colour hair up on the stage. You want to see every colour hair in the youth team. We've got red and slightly grey, but I think that's genuinely what we want to see across all ministries. And I think that the service team structure, as I can see it play out across Kirrawee and other campuses, that seems to work a lot better than, as I say, just one demographic over here, another demographic over here. I think that will have, lot longer term benefit to sort of, spiritual growth and numerical growth, I think, through MCC.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of the shock absorber is institutionalizing relationship and those things that would happen in the past because you had maybe someone who was passionate about having younger people involved, or someone who it would just naturally kind of happen. It's really trying to focus in and be like, no, this is an outcome that we actually want and see as beneficial. So therefore we're going to work towards that rather than it just happening, working well, or not happening because you don't have a certain person involved or things like that. I think that's really good.
That's a kind of being intentional thing of growing in that way that you want to, rather than being a bit disparate and find it because it's all well-meaning. That's the thing. It's the whole thing is that people want other people to know about Jesus and also to disciple one another, as we say, to be on mission together.
I think one of those things that I guess I've been convicted of is we don't own this place, right? This is Christ's church. We're just passing through. We're being stewards right now of what he's done. I think Miranda got all of Soul Revival together back at the end of March for our 130th anniversary, and you think back at that. I'm such a small part of that group of people that's continued to meet together. And so that genuinely is something that I'm convicted of at the moment, is what does the next 130 years look like, and how can I participate in, helping that go forward. So it's not going to be, because I'm certainly not going to be here in 130 years' time, despite what AI might be able to do for me. But yeah, we've got a limited time here to be able to do something, to be able to influence something, to work towards something. So again, I hope we can all sort of just get on with that, get that out of the way now, but also not realise that it's all on me. And that's possibly another issue that I've had in the past. Oh, well, I've got to stay here and fix that. It's not that. I think, as we work together as the church and as we continue to grow it, with the strategy that's in place, I think that pressure then comes off, that it's not on one group of people. We're just passing through here.
And then God do the work. Yeah, kind of what we're talking about with 1 and 2 Kings as well.
Yeah, and the 130th anniversary was a fun morning.
Yeah.
We had so all of our Sunday gatherings gathered here on a Sunday morning, which was really lovely. It's really good to have breakfast together and hang out. And
I really liked that idea. I think that was cool.
Yeah, it was really fun to get to do.
You mentioned the future. You talked about wanting to, you might want to leave a small legacy of knowing that through God I helped us continue for another 130 years. What do you see in like the kind of near future, and what are we going to be talking about next time we get you on the Chip Lunch podcast?
Yeah, well, I'll just touch on the legacy thing before I sort of think future. But legacy, again, probably over the last 6 months, a lot of people that were influential in my life have left the world, right? They've passed on and things like that. And I know we talked about Pam's podcast that we were able to do last year, but again, her and her husband Les were just so inspirational to a bunch of us in the church, and so now they're no longer here. So I think that there's part of that to go, okay, well, we are all finite. So the legacy that they leave behind is about the people that they're building behind them, and so I think the legacy I'd like to sort of think that I can contribute to, along with most other people here, is that the people that we continue to build up, the disciples that we continue to bring in, the new Christians that are born. So they're that's the legacy piece. I think with the future of where I think we'll be in the next 12 months, certainly I'd like to think that you wouldn't see a lot of difference between what goes on at Kirrawee and what goes on at Miranda and what goes on at Ryde and what goes on at Yarrawarra and Cronulla and stuff like that. I would hope that some of those things, again, if you walked into any of those places, you'd feel, you knew what was going on and you'd feel welcome. I think at the moment still, Miranda operates a particular way and Kirrawee sort of operates a particular way. So again, getting closer in I keep using the word DNA. It's probably not the right word, but
integration.
Yeah, that's it. The integration's getting closer, and we're more comfortable. Yeah. I think one thing that was good, and I've lost track of time and things like that, but hopefully with the integration of resources as well, we were able to bring more people onto staff last year. So I would love to think that in the next 12 months, we've got that ability to put more people on staff across Soul Revival.
Yeah, I love that. Cool.
We know there's still a couple of gaps that we'd love to be able to fill, but that would be awesome if we could sort of continue to bring more people on there. Looking at the wider, and it's probably something I didn't know about 12 months ago, or knew little bits of it, but just the gravity of volunteers within Miranda and Kirrawee and the rest of the church at the moment. I think making sure that everyone feels that they've got a role to play and knows what that role is, because at the moment it's sort of, everyone's still doing what they used to do, and as I say, I know Stu's having lots of conversations with people about, well, how about we get you to do that, and that's your role. So I'd like to see
bridging the gap between those two things.
Yeah. So really being deliberate, and again, strategy. This is your job. This is what we would like you to do. Can you commit to that? And people really digging into that and saying, yeah, that's mine. I'm gonna work towards that. Again, not a horrible way of saying I own this, but just I
It's
know
taking ownership in an intentional way, like we were talking about. Yeah, instead of like, oh, is it mine or is it not mine? Yeah, okay,
perfect. Yeah, no, that's it. So I think there's some of the things that I think in the next 12 months, if we can be doing those things a lot better, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that. Well, this has been fun to catch up.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add, Brandon, before we wrap up the chips?
No, it's been fun to think through what's been happening over the last year, especially.
Yeah.
I'm down here most Sundays. I think I've missed one Sunday so far this year. And it's just been really lovely getting to do life together. As Craig says, like, it's that incidental kind of time, especially like over breakfast or when you're hanging. When I'm walking in, I normally get here. I'm either first or Arthur and RJ beat me, or Kim, and Marty, and all the faces that kind of get things rolling early, and it's really lovely to get to do that, but also to hang out after church and chat to people and see different people hanging out. It's been really lovely, and I think my lesson over the last year has been like it takes time to build that kind of relationships and trust, and also just have those experiences together. That the incidental hangouts we mentioned, like having Maccas after council is fun, but it's also just one of those incidental things that happens because you're hanging out, and like all those conversations that happen on a Sunday just because people are in proximity to one another is really, really lovely to get to be a part of. It's been really fun.
Yeah. And I think the other bit that I'm seeing, I guess I talk about green shoots as well. Like, where are the green shoots coming out? But where are the new disciples coming from? And I know, I mean, this morning downstairs, there's a whole bunch of families that we don't see across the rest of the weekend at playgroup and playtime and stuff. So again, we've seen a couple of those families come on Sunday mornings, which has been really nice, and that's been good to see. But again, being deliberate about that, making sure that they can see what pathways there are to other activities within the church, and again, getting to know Jesus. That's what it's about. And then again, Friday nights at Miranda, and others know this far better than I do, but again, there's a lot of people from outside of, I guess, the regular attenders that come on Friday nights, and I think, again, what are their next steps? How do we get them more involved in what we're doing? How do we get them in relationship with Jesus? And again, there's a whole bunch of much smarter people than me working on that on Friday nights, but they're the green shoots that I'm seeing. And then if I talk about our older sort of congregants, our older members and things like that, again, they're doing some good stuff in bringing their friends along to some of the craft groups and things like that. Again, it does get a bit harder when you get a bit older. Making new friends can be difficult, but I guess seeing some green shoots there of different people coming at different times and things. So just continuing to invest in those relationships, and as we keep saying, be deliberate about it. Be deliberate about investing in people's lives and relationships. Yeah,
that's really cool. It's been a very positive podcast. I've really enjoyed it. That it continues to grow under God, and I think it's really, really cool. Talking about proximity, Craig, are you coming to Week Way?
Well, if you can put the link in the chat, Hudson, on how because I don't want to go to Lou and say I haven't registered yet.
Oh dear.
Well, so, I have the list, Craig.
Yeah, so if you can just send me the link, and we'll register. We do want to get down there for the weekend, at least, so we'll be there for some of it.
Amazing.
So yeah, looking forward to it. You can't be sick this year, okay?
Oh gosh, I hope not.
Yeah.
Far out. I'm dreading it.
Were you sick last year? I remember the year before.
Both years I've been. The last 2 years.
Start taking vitamin C now.
I probably should, eh?
I mean, Braden did invite me something called the boys' room or something.
Is
that something that I want to be involved with, or just avoid like the plague?
Says these two, and then Braden and Ethan. There was a free room last year, and they're like, "Oh, we're sleeping in there tonight."
I didn't do that. No. I stole the bed out of that room because my air mattress is such a. I was thinking about that this morning. I'm like, I need to actually buy a new air mattress this year. I can't keep living with what I'm living. No, I went and stole the bed out of that and put it in the boys' hall.
And I'm going to get my health insurance paid up so I can go and play the soccer game on the Mudfield.
I might come do that.
We were down at Watersley this week for regional conference, and I could say that field was looking pretty rough.
Pretty boggy.
I mentioned to Joe, I think Jono's playing left wing again. He'll enjoy whatever's going on down there. It looked it looked very choppy. So
I mean, I remember, from many years ago, it was a pretty rough field.
Yeah, bring your wet weather studs.
Yeah, there's been a fair few cows on that field.
And again, talking about integration and sort of doing a bit more, again, I would encourage sort of anyone from Miranda that hasn't been, at least come down on the Sunday and see what it's all about.
The day away, a week away.
The day away, a week away, yeah. I think, again, just being able to meet new people, being able to sort of share in each other's lives for those few days has just been, again, we were only there for a couple of days last year, but we'll try and extend that by a bit more this year.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, certainly that's something that's in that piece that works for Soul Revival.
Well, this is the call out. If anyone's listening, you haven't registered, make sure you register.
And go to the link that Hudson's going to put it.
Yeah. Also, we'll put the link into the soulrevival.com, soulrevivalchurch.com/shop, which has the week away apparel as well, if you wish to order that. Order that by the 15th of June, and we will be very excited to see you wearing that on the Saturday. It's when we usually give it out. So, yeah. Thanks, everyone. That's been fun.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming on, Craig. It's been great.
Thanks for the invite.
No, you're welcome. Thank you, Braden.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, everyone listening and watching. And this has been the Chip Lunch Podcast. We'll see you next week. And one way.